Welcome to
Such a
NEK
good-
VT Rocks. My guest today is Lynton Moore, and we're going to be talking about cold water exposure, both swimming and non-swimming, and Wim Hof. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Newport, because you're a new arrival here, relatively speaking.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really good to be here.
Was it our cold water that brought you here?
Oh gosh, I mean, I had no idea. It has turned out to be one of the reasons that I really like it here. I had no idea, actually. It was one of those situations where my daughter lives here and my grandson, who's 4, and I really wanted to become more of a proactive grandma and
Sure.
be part of their lives on a daily basis. So that's why I'm here.
So for those of us who are into cold water,
Yeah.
and obviously I include myself in this, can you sort of clarify what the attraction is? Because most of us just go, oh, we love it, but with no meaningful explanation.
Yeah, what is that about the cold water? Well, it's such a challenge.
Yeah.
And it's right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so available, and yet there's so much fear
Right.
around it. And to be able to overcome that,
Mm-hmm.
and once you overcome the fear and you realize that it's actually one of your best friends,
Yeah.
it's really compelling. And the effects of it are so natural and so accessible that that it's just something that it's something to overcome, and it's something to enjoy at the same
How
time.
did you get into it?
Well, by accident, and of course in this way,
Yeah.
I happened to be in the hot springs. I was living in Colorado for the last 32 years, and I was in Pagosa Hot Springs. And I heard somebody in one of the pools talking about neuroscience. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting conversation, better than some other kind of...
The Kardashians, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what was, yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. And so, I just found myself kind of listening in, and I was fascinated, and the next thing you know, I was indoctrinated into cold water theories and neuroscience around it. And it was really fun. And it was it happened to be this particular guy who was talking this way was a Wim Hof level 3 instructor. And the next thing I found myself doing was following him into the river, out of the hot springs and sitting in the river. It was really hard. At first, there was no way I could do it. And so I went back into the hot spring and was like, into the pool, like, this is my little comfort zone. And then he's like, let's try again. So I went out, and he described to me, how to breathe through the pain. And also, as I got out of that experience, he let me know it was a practice, and that it's not something that, you can get right overnight. And
Right.
because that it was a practice, it was something worth getting into that way. And as I got out of the river and followed him back to the hot springs, I had this overwhelming feeling of safety. It was really interesting, and kind of that sense of just euphoria, I would call
Right.
it. And as Wim Hof says, it's getting high on your own supply.
Right. Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it. And a lot of people have experienced the, quote, runner's high.
Yeah.
And this is somehow similar, but without the brutality that comes with running.
Yeah.
The pounding on the pavement.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. I would say that's another reason I got into it, because I used to be a runner, and it wasn't serving me very
Right.
much to be doing that anymore.
Yeah, I am also a, quote, recovering
Yeah,
runner.
it's recovering.
And that euphoria feeling when I got out of a pool after swimming the length of it the first time was, whoa!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. A lot of endorphins are released.
Yeah.
Dopamine, serotonin, all of it. And when you do it together collectively, there's
Right.
Oxytocin, actually. So there's a very big bonding
Yeah. Huh.
effect that happens when we get into the cold water together.
So what is Wim Hof? I mean, we're seeing more of the name around, and it is a name, it's 2 words, but
Yeah, so
what is it?
Wim Hof, just to kind of clarify, Wim Hof is a Dutch man.
Uh-huh.
He's in his 60s now. And he went through some traumatic experiences when he was younger. He had 4 kids and his wife.
That's traumatic.
Yeah, that was enough, right? Yeah, and the mother of his children and his wife unfortunately had mental health issues and committed suicide. And so he all of a sudden was left with 4 kids and had to figure out how to handle some of this. And the practices that he were using at the time, you know, a lot of like pranayama, yoga, some of the old tumo from the Tibetan lineage of, you know, of cultivating a way to find, you know, happiness within. And so he devised, I guess he started going into the cold water more and more in order to cope with the stress. And from there, he took some of the pranayama breathing from yoga and created the Wim Hof method, which is really the breathing, the mindset, and the cold water as a combination. So it's the Wim Hof method. So it includes breathing and then the mindset or commitment or the discipline, and then the cold water to create more of a happy, stronger self who is ultimately, you know, you're ultimately in charge of your own happiness, of your, you know, not dependent on anything else externally. And with that, it's growing because as the world feels and seems more out of control than ever, this is
clearly
like, okay, this is the way to actually control our own happiness, our own.
Right. This is the only thing I can control.
That's
me.
right. That's right.
Right.
And our immune system. I mean,
Yes.
this practice, you know, you're able to control your autonomic nervous system. Your immune system gets impacted. Your circulatory system, lymphatic system, everything. And if we have that type of control, then no matter what the circumstances, we're good.
Right. I come from an applied psychophysiology background, and through biofeedback, which did involve the use of instruments, we taught self-regulation skills. So people, for example, with Raynaud's syndrome could learn how to get rid of that by increasing blood flow to peripheries.
That's it.
And that's what Wim Hof appears to do.
That's right.
It just packages it a little
That's right.
differently.
That's right.
And actually much more affordably, because to have machine-enhanced training is delightful, and it's very useful getting that kind of feedback,
Yeah.
but it's expensive.
Yes. Yeah. So this is available to anyone, anytime, anywhere.
So if people are interested, how do they begin to learn about it?
I think it's helpful to, I mean, if you Google Wim Hof, you're going to get a lot of...
That's WIMHOF. HOF.
HOF, yeah. And
HOF, yeah.
they've got the, you know, they've got the main website
Yeah.
for Wim Hof. There's so many ways to, also YouTube, there's a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of, the Goop Lab did something on him.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. So you can learn how to do the breathing. There's Wim Hof Fundamentals course that you can sign up for. There's also, even locally here, we've got people who are official Wim Hof instructors. One, Rob Williams lives in Wadesfield, and he conducts 4-hour intros to the Wim Hof. So it's really easy to access how to do the method.
Right. And then beyond that, it's get it into your life and get out and do it.
Yes, that's the commitment piece.
Yeah.
It takes discipline. And
Yes.
like a lot of discipline. And in order, you know, and to even start with that says something. And so that's, you know, I think discipline, commitment, and creating a routine and a practice around it gives it the efficacy.
It is hard to put something new in your life in a consistent way. So, and for those of us who have ever practiced yoga, it's really hard to keep that going,
Yeah.
as we all know.
It's really hard, and that's that we can become complacent.
Yes.
It's easy to enjoy our comforts. And this, there's kind of a trend, or there has been a bit, I don't know where we are with that right now, to embrace discomfort.
Not so sure about that one, yeah.
Particularly because we've been rather comfortable, at least in this neck of the woods here. And so how to embrace some of the discomfort in order to appreciate more of the comfort that we have. And so there's been a trend around that.
So I keep banging my head against a wall because it feels so good when I stop.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah, that's.
But Wim Hof really isn't that.
No, it's really not that. The benefits are really palpable right in the beginning. And it just you just have to take 20 to 30 minutes, out of your day to decide that it matters enough to do the practice. And once you get used to that, habit can be cultivated within 21 days. You can change habits that way too.
Right. And 20 minutes really is not that big a commitment. I mean, up here, if we want to find a swimming pool, for example, that's over an hour's drive, and then the swim, and then the back. So to have something that's as simple in time quantities as 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Most of us can squish that in our days somewhere.
Yeah. You just have to decide.
Yeah.
And typically the morning is a good time to do it. It's a way to start the day. That is how I start my day, because I'm a psychotherapist and I see a lot of clients throughout the day, and I need to stay elevated in order to do the best job.
Conscious,
I can do.
right.
Yes, conscious, not complacent, not uncomfortable, actually elevated and ready to help people transcend wherever they are.
Yeah.
So I would say that's primarily why I do the practice, is so that I can be of better service, honestly.
Yeah. What does the practice consist of?
Well, I would say, my particular practice, how I do it, or the one, So it really looks...
Or a variant of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do the Wim Hof breathing every day, no matter what, whether I go into the cold or not. So I start and I sit. Often people lie down to do it to start. Now I'm in a place where I prefer to sit and do the breathing, and I meditate, right after that, and sit in that space. And then from there, I usually do a yoga practice. That's pretty intense for about anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour. And then from there, I don't go into the cold water every day, but if I were to, then I would at that point go into the cold water. And then I'm ready, good to go.
Yeah. Once you come out of that water and dry off.
Yeah, then, game on.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
There could be either sitting with clients, or perhaps it also helps with athletic performance. I might go on a bike ride, or I might do something, or swim, or do something that's going to enhance that endurance capacity. So.
What's different about the breathing? I mean, a lot of us have done yogic breathing, or we've learned diaphragmatic breathing, or whatever technical names you want. Do you know what's different about Wim Hof? Or is there anything different?
It's not really different. I just think it's easier for people to wrap themselves around, not calling it pranayama breathing.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, that's yogic breathing. It's similar, but it's packaged such that it's really the same, unless you want to get into the advanced techniques. But it's the same every time, and you're really you're doing exactly what you just said. You're expanding your diaphragm, you're breathing. I mean, it's basically for 30 breaths, and then you're gonna, at the tail end of that, with the last inhale, you exhale and you hold for as long as you can. If you become skilled at it, perhaps you're holding your breath for 2 minutes. On average, 1 minute is great, and then at that point, when you start to feel that tingling sensation and you can't hold it any longer, you're going to do a big inhale.
Right.
And then everything you concentrate, this is where the breath and the, almost like the blood everything gets concentrated. You know, you can either squeeze it into your head, into your hands, into your, you know, wherever you need extra attention in the body, because it helps reduce inflammation that way. And so, you know, it's that, and you do 3 rounds of that. And then at the end, you're pretty calm and pretty connected, I'm going to say. And then meditate. It's nice to do the meditation at that point, if you have one.
Right. And if you don't have that kind of time, you can presumably do the breathing, not do the meditation, and certainly not do the yoga practice at that point.
And you can do the breathing in bed.
Right.
You just lie down. You can just wake up and do it. And it's really helpful for reducing anxiety. Some people wake up, you know, with anxiety.
Imagine that right now.
Yeah.
Fancy, yeah.
It's pretty pervasive. I mean, the increase is, you know, so.
It's contagious too.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely contagious. That's why this method, it's like this also can become contagious. That we can, in fact, control our anxiety, our fear.
Right.
Whatever else is coming our way externally.
There's a lot of things that are contagious in that way that we don't even realize.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking before we started today about an event that you and I had both participated in, which was a lot of people winter swimming, and the euphoria that came after that, and we're all sort of sending each other higher and higher. The energy in that room was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's love.
Yes, it's great.
I mean, that's, you know, that's a difference. I mean, that's the opposite of the fear. You know, if we're not going to buy into the fear and the anxiety and the stress and the, you know, what's the other side of that? Well, that's connection.
Yes.
It's collaboration. That's love. That's like we all belong to one human race here. And, you know, it just crosses all borders. It crosses, you know, and it becomes a connecting force.
Right. And the contrast between that energy and the sort of COVID-based fear that we've all had before, you know, don't go near anybody, everybody's out to kill you, which is horrible.
I know.
Horrible.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
We're like,
and I mean, the actual messages that have been given, particularly to little kids, which is, if you don't wear your mask, it's your fault if somebody dies. That's appalling.
Yeah. It
really is.
A lot of fear-based realities happening, coming our way.
So to have a way that's energy connecting, and we're energetic beings, all of us, that isn't negative.
That's right.
Is wonderful.
Yeah. And almost everyone can access this, you know?
Yeah.
And everybody. Absolutely everybody. So it's and I think that ultimately was Wim Hof's hope. Remedy,
right,
to create this and to connect and to, you know, that we could become a stronger, healthier, happier society because of it. So it's at our fingertips.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there places around here? I know you said that there's a trainer who's relatively close to here, but very often for keeping a practice going, it's really nice to connect with other people.
Yeah. Are
you available for people to connect with?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, I would love to be available for people to connect with this way. Being new to the kingdom, I was in Colorado for 32 years, so this is a totally new community.
And a very different one.
Very different, and wasn't quite quiet. You know, I've been very much like in my cabin.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how I wanted to integrate into this community. I have a full practice, you know, mental health therapy practice that does not include anyone here. It's all online now with folks from Colorado. So that's that. And here I wanted to really think about, how do I want to be?
Right.
How do I want to be in this community? And it sounds like this is sort of what's coming, you know, it's like that is how you're going to be in this community.
Pushing. Yeah.
Yeah, which feels great. I would love to be able to facilitate breathing and meditation and yoga. I have all the skills to teach all of these things.
Right.
And then also, I think what's primary for me, which isn't often the case with other practitioners or instructors, is the after piece. How to support people, because this is a big initiation into, sometimes experiencing what's in the unconscious that you were not, things come up with
Oh,
this.
yes.
There's a lot that happens. You open the door. And so to be able to process what that experience was like to do the breathing, to get into the cold water for the first time, what emotions have come up, how can I help you sit with that and process that afterwards? And that is really the role that I want to be playing if I'm going to collaborate with any other instructors, or it's like I want to make sure that after piece is there for people.
It's important.
And I want to be, I almost am thinking of calling myself like the processing station. I can teach these things, and then I can also, let's have a meal afterwards, and let's talk about how you experience this, and to leave, not just wide open and
right, vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that piece is not often.
That's real. Yeah. That would be great.
Yeah.
So you're going to put something together like that?
I think so.
Very subtle, yeah.
Yes, I will be putting something. How about that? I will be putting something together that way, and hopefully we can design. I know that they do this in Burlington. There's a group of women called the Red Hot Chili Dippers,
right?
And they have swims often. I don't know if they don't really do the breathing part. I think they just
they're not really a Wim Hof group. They're sort of like those of us who loosely called ourselves the Shark Bait Sheilas up here, which is just a swim group, a go in the water group. Yeah. However you go in.
That's right. So it's less of a practice and more of somehow, but that just says that you don't really have to do the breathing. You could just go in the cold water.
But it's nice to have the option of learning that and adding another skill.
I think so. It's beneficial for all aspects of your life, so might as well. So yes, I think we'll be doing some of that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Years ago, many years ago actually, I participated in something called the Art of Living, which is a very similar breathing meditation kind of process. And actually there's a group also in Burlington. Everything's in Burlington, but we're up here. So
we've got our little outposts.
Yeah, and as well as doing the biofeedback kind of stuff. And part of what I learned was that how much faster, you learn all sorts of things, but one of the real practical things that's really useful is I warm up much faster than a lot of the other people when they get out of the water.
Oh yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah.
I didn't need to sit around with my feet in warm water and a rice pack on my back.
Right.
Because I'm warm again instantly.
Yeah.
And that's breathing and physiologic flow.
That's right.
And we live in a cold climate up here. It's really nice to have a way of dealing with the heating the house too, but dealing with the reality of going out into the cold and then coming back in and not needing to crank the heat up to 80 degrees.
That's right.
Because I warm up.
Yes, that's right. To create our own internal heat. And that's accessible.
Yes.
So we might as well learn how to do that. Yeah, and to do with some of these temperatures, it's down, it's negative. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sub-zero. So how can we? It helps. Doing this practice does help. You can go out into the cold and not freak out.
It's balance.
Yeah, it's balance, and it doesn't become your enemy anymore.
No.
It becomes your friend. The cold does. And when viewed that way, it just takes the edge off.
Right. Yeah, and even if I don't always want to think of the cold outside as my friend, at least I don't have to be bullied by it.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's not our enemy. We're not going to be bullied. Yes.
Exactly. I'm walking out to the mailbox and I'm not going to come in as a popsicle.
Exactly.
It makes a difference.
It does.
So if you were interested in at least sort of supporting some of the basic skills, how would people get in contact with you?
Once I decide where and how I would be doing this, I think the best way to contact me is, I have an email. That's my name. So it's lyntonmoore@gmail.com. That's probably the best way. And once I, maybe come up with actually
a schedule of some sort.
Yeah, a schedule where people can gather and learn the breathing and learn some of these things, then maybe it'll be out there on
be great.
social media.
So we have this sort of fabulous outdoor environment here. We are so lucky to have it. and just one more way that we can make use of it and help ourselves at the same time, and develop even more consciousness of the environment around us.
Absolutely, because as it says on the bottom of your email, water is life.
Right.
And it is, and it's so sacred, and so it's something that we really, really need to pay attention to and nurture right now.
At a real practical level, poisoning it is the most stupid thing we could possibly do, because without it, we're dead
That's right.
as
It
a whole, as a
matters.
total species.
Yes, and to protect it, and to and to be part of it, and to
Yeah.
understand it, and to embrace it. That's also what's most important. And I would say in the future, I mean, we could create all sorts of retreats. I would say day retreat type of things where maybe we learn about the water even, or whomever wants to be part of this. There can be many different facets of this that could take over. We could even, we could do some paddling, we could do some lunch, we could do some, just learning.
Right.
There's a lot of collaboration that could happen. There could be poetry. There's so much.
All of the above. Right.
As far as a day of really, learning how to, I would say, to have a practice.
And fun.
Fun. Yeah, fun. Let's have fun.
I'm not doing anything else currently, or learning any new skills that don't involve fun.
Yeah, fun is so important.
The last 2 years have just changed that
Yeah.
for me. Sometimes a little pain and suffering before was part of the learning. I don't believe that anymore.
No, I know.
Doesn't have to be.
It doesn't. We can embrace the fun and the creativity and the
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
And that, that would be my hope.
One of the yoga groups here, Inspire Yoga, that's downtown, has been doing paddleboard yoga.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the summer, and that's great.
That's really great. Yep, love that too.
Yeah.
So, we can come up with all sorts of things here.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're glad you moved here?
I'm so glad I moved here. I'm so glad I moved here. And particularly the water is really important. And in Colorado right now, it's very dry. There's a lot of drought, and the wildfires are just
Yeah, that's
taking
horrifying.
off, and really challenging to be in the smoke for 3 summers in a row. I don't know. I don't want to say I ran away from from something that was scary.
It is.
But it basically has changed quite a bit in the last 30 years.
Mhm.
And I was also living at very high elevation, 10,000 feet.
Which actually is great for your physical fitness.
Really
your
good.
aerobic capacity.
But
Athletes
also-
go to train there.
That's right. But living there day in and day,
Yeah.
it takes a toll
Sure.
also. There's a lot that, your body has to work harder to be there.
Yes.
And there's not, I really like it here where there's, it's not just young people. And it's just a calmer, more nurturing environment, which I was ready for.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same, and the beauty is here, and I love the remote aspect of it also. And there's something very special about the Northeast Kingdom.
So I hear a commitment to stay here for
Yeah.
at least whenever.
Yep, not going anywhere. Just got my Vermont driver's license.
Oh, that's it. You are so stuck here.
The car's getting inspected right now.
Ah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited to be in Vermont and to explore more of the way that Vermonters live, which is very community oriented. And
Mhm.
I really value that at this point.
Yeah. And you moved here at a really hard time because we were so locked down and so indoctrinated to be scared of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being able to do things like that. I mean, the Wim Hof practice is one of the ways that you can say yes to things. Like,
Mhm.
I'm good. Like, if I'm gonna go sit and in my little cabin all winter long and take it as a challenge, like,
Yeah.
great, I can do that because I know I can.
Right.
And that's I think what's most important about this
Mm-hmm.
practice we're speaking about. It's like
Right.
the I can mentality.
The self-sufficiency,
Exactly.
but that doesn't deny community.
Correct. That's right. It's not
Yeah.
competitive. Doesn't
Right.
need to be competitive. You can get that way if you choose. However, it's
But
not
why
part
would
of-
you? Well, I know.
Right.
And for those who want competition in their lives, they can have it, but in a different arena. It doesn't have to be with that particular skill. That's the way to come back and restore.
That's right. Yeah, because people could get, I've seen it, if their egos get involved, egos get involved in everything. So
Yes,
it's like,
of course.
oh, well, how long can you stay in the cold water? Oh, I stayed in for 4 minutes. I stayed in for 10 minutes. That kind of thing. It's not it doesn't benefit you.
And it doesn't prove anything.
To stay in longer. It actually isn't necessarily the goal.
Right. I get asked that all the time. Well, how long do you stay in?
Yeah, right.
How long does it take you to swim to one end to the other?
Right. Don't know. It's more about how do you feel when you get out? Is everything,
Right.
intact? Did you
Have my fingers dropped off?
Yes. Did you overdo it? I can tell when I overdo it.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
No.
It's toxic, actually. And there's some recovery involved
Yeah.
if you overdo it, because if you overdo it, meaning stay in too long or jump in without proper
Preparation.
Yeah, proper preparation.
Yeah.
That if you jump in with your sympathetic nervous system on
Right.
fire, meaning a lot of fight or flight's already going on, or you're really stressed, likely it's not going to be easy to calm down.
Right.
And you will get, your body's going to go into that mode where everything.
Exactly. It's fight or flight.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
your extremities are going to be compromised.
Yeah, which actually brings us to a good point, a sort of final point, is
Mhm.
as you start to go into cold water, it's useful to not do it alone,
Correct.
because there's a safety factor here, and once you know where your own limits are, then that's cool.
That's right. And to have a friend, no matter what, it's better with friends.
Yes.
And at the same time, there are hypothermia, panic. These are some of the
Right.
the scary pieces if you don't take it, honor it. In other words, it needs to be honored as
Yes.
a practice.
And once you do it, to have a way of warming up afterwards.
Yes,
A
warming
place
up
to
is
do that.
really important. And that's the piece, you want to actually warm up naturally. That's what's most healthy
Right.
to do. Meaning you're going to get very red, and you don't need to jump right into the hot water. It's like you let your
No.
body naturally heat itself back up,
Yeah.
and that's in the
From the
healing.
inside out as opposed to from the outside in.
Correct. And that, that helps reduce the inflammation
Right.
and gets your body prepared to be able to be even more
And it
effective.
feels good.
It feels really good. And then you can have your tea and your warm water and maybe take
Exactly.
a hot shower, but give it some time. So it's nice to have a friend to be able to, remind you of what it is that is important and to do it together. And it's so fun.
Yes, it is.
For whatever reason, it is so, so fun to be out there with people.
Yes, it really
And we
is.
get to be wild, our wild selves, it does that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and doing this.
Oh, you're
and
welcome.
look forward to some of the workshops and gatherings
Yes.
that we can do around this.
Yes, me
It's great.
too.
Thanks.
You're welcome.